Welcome to the Volleyball Growth Coach Podcast. My name is Christopher Knowles, and today we are back at it, answering more of your guys' questions. I really hope that these episodes are really beneficial for you guys because I like taking the questions and the things that you guys go through on a regular basis and helping you find solutions to them. So if you're really benefiting from these episodes, share it with a friend, share it with a teammate. And then if you have any more questions, put it in the comment section of our TikTok and our Instagram at Volleyball Growth Coach. And as always, we jump straight in and we don't waste any time here at VGC. So, first question, diving straight in. I didn't make any club team this year. I was on one last year, but I know I'm not bad and I thought I was doing well during tryouts. What should I do now? That is a phenomenal question. So, I think two things. One, this should be motivation for you. And two, this is a great opportunity. The reason I say both of those things is because, one, if you were on a previous club team and you didn't make a club team the next year, that means that it doesn't have to be true, but that means that there was more perceived value in other players compared to you, and that means that other players have been improving a little bit more than you have, right? So that's why I say use it as motivation, because now this can be motivation that, hey, they didn't think I was good enough. They didn't think that I was capable of playing on this club team or this club team. I'm going to show them, right? I'm going to come back next year and be on a better team than the guys that they picked over me, right? That's how I operate. I think that's how most of the players that play at a high level operate as well. So use it as fuel, right? Use it as motivation. I made the USA A1 team, the high performance team, one year. I believe it was like my 16s or 17s year. And so I made the A1 team, right? Like that's the team under, like one under the I think not the U21 team, but it's some other U something team. I made the A1 team, right? The next year I tried out again for the USA like A1 or A2 or A3 high performance teams. Didn't make it, right? I didn't go back home and sit on my bed and complain that they didn't pick me. I truly turned it into fuel and used it as motivation, right? I was okay, like, how do I make the A1 team one year and I don't even make a single, not even A2 or A3 the next year, right? Like that genuinely made me mad. And so I turned it into fuel. I'm like, okay, I'm going to show them. I'm going to make teams that are even better than the A1 team, right? Ended up being a first team All-American at my senior year, right? So, but I think that's the thing is, like, most players would be like, oh, well, I'm not good enough, so I'm just going to stop playing volleyball. And the players that become great over time and become better over time are the ones that turn situations like this into motivation. So that's my biggest thing. Use it as motivation to come back even bigger, better, stronger, and better than everyone else this next year, this upcoming year, this next season. And then the other thing is this is an opportunity to find things that you need to improve on, find things that you need to work on, find things that you need to change, right? Find things you need to add to your life, find things you need to remove to your life, right? In order to enhance your abilities, enhance your playing, enhance everything, right? So first, take it as motivation, and second, see it as an opportunity to find all in every way to improve and change and do things better so that you can be that player that you want to be and make those teams that you want to make, right? That's what we do is at VGC is we take those 90% of players that feel like they're down and out and feel like that they're not tall enough or good enough or whatever, and we guide you along the path to help you become that player you want to be, right? There's only so many players that can be 7 foot and 6'7", and I'm blessed to be one of those players. But I want to share that knowledge, and we want to share our knowledge with those players that have that motivation, that have that chip on their shoulder. I still have the chip on my shoulder from things that happened years ago, right? And I want to help players like you get to that point where you can use this as motivation, get help and guidance on this path that you're trying to make so you can succeed and be the best player you want to be, right? Because I've been there, right? So use it as motivation. Find every opportunity you can to get better, and then you will be on your way. Question number two. Can you give some tips about setting super high spinning passes and some drills to get better hands as a setter? So, I would say my biggest thing is making sure that you're controlling the ball and not the ball is not controlling you, right? What I mean by this is when it's spinning, if it's spinning a ton, you want to be able to utilize your hands in a way that controls the ball and stops that momentum from whichever way it's spinning, right? So if you're technically a setter, you're facing the outside and the ball is coming and it's spinning, right? More than likely it's going to be spinning backwards, which to you is spinning to the left. So you have to really develop that kind of brain to muscle connection or brain to hand connection of, hey, you got to use a little bit more strength on your left hand to stop that spin momentum and then set it out, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but definitely making sure that you're controlling the ball and the ball is not dictating what your hands do, right? This is what a lot of setters go through, I believe, because I've had some times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to go set this ball, and the ball controls what my hands do, and that's what happens with, like, when I'm trying to set it. So, like, making sure that you're controlling what the ball does and the ball is not controlling what your hands do, right? That's a little bit of not even really a strength thing, but a conscious effort of, hey, I'm going to control this ball, stop that spin and throw it out, right? It's not a matter of catching and holding the ball for a second, but it's a matter of, hey, I'm going to control this ball. I'm going to stop that spin by either having a little bit more strength in my left hand based off the spin, or just getting my hands a little bit more wrapped around it to stop that spin, but making sure that you have the mentality that you're going to control the ball and the ball's not going to control you. I think that doesn't only just help with this, but it helps with a lot of common problems that young setters have. Like, don't let the ball control what your hands do. Let your hands control what the ball does. Boom. We're on fire today. Question number 3. I'm 5'6", just started playing a few months ago, and I don't know what position I should play for. Yeah. I would say test different positions and see which one you like best. But, little asterisks with this as well, don't call it too early. What I mean by this is I get so many DMs and messages, and even people like a part of VGC that are like, hey, I'm 5'8", and I feel like I should switch positions. And I'm like, how old are you? Like, oh, I'm 13. I'm like, bro, if I would have been like, oh, at 13 for me, right? I'm 6'7" now. At 13, if I would have been like, oh, I'm only 5'9" or whatever, however tall I was, I should just be a libero, and I turned out to be 6'7", and I like stuck myself at libero, that'd be a little tough, right? And so the point I'm trying to get across is never call it too early of, oh, I'm this height now, I should change my position and do this for the rest of my career. You know what I mean? Because for me, I just grew like 2 or 3 inches every year over time, right? Sometimes players will go from 6 foot to 6'6" between their junior year and senior year out of nowhere, right? The story I like to tell is Scottie Pippen, the NBA basketball player. I think he went from like 6'2" to 6'8" in his freshman year to sophomore year of college. If he would have been like, oh, I'm just going to go play pickleball for the rest of my life because I'm only 6'2" and I'm not going to make it in basketball, and he sprouted up to 6'8", you know what I mean? That, like, yes, it was a little bit late in college, but he still became who he became. Then that would have sucked, you know? So I think it's first, like, if you are young, don't label yourself too early, right? Making sure that, like, even if you're 15, right, you still have so much time to just sprout up and you don't even know it, right? And so I would say give yourself time. Don't call it too early. And if you're trying to look for a position when you're just starting out, try everything, right? Do outside and libero. And then if you don't like those, do oppo and setter, right? If you don't like that, then you should probably be a middle, right? So I would say the biggest thing is don't call it too early. Be like, oh, I'm 5'6" now. I should be this position for the rest of my life or the rest of my career. And also, if you're new, try every position and try to learn as much as you can about that position in the time you play, right? Outside and setter, okay, I don't really like one or the other, or you're like, hey, I kind of like being a setter, then stick with being a setter, and then you could just continue being a setter for the rest of your career, right? So try every position that you feel like is interesting to you, and do not call or label yourself as something too early, because anything can happen. Question number 4, how do you play as an outside hitter? Example, during rotation and defense. That is a pretty broad question. How do you play as an outside hitter? Example, during rotation and defense. So I'm going to touch on the two biggest things I think that outsides go through, especially younger outsides that really kind of learn the hard way, and that's middle back defense and I would say hitting as well. I would have to ask one of the VGC coaches who's an outside what he thinks. But I think the biggest thing that I've seen with my players as a coach is like middle back defense seems to be a little bit difficult because like it's a matter of being in the right position first. So if the outside on the other side is hitting, right, you want to fill that gap in the block and move a little bit to the left so you're covering that deep corner and the libero in front of you is covering anything in front, so you guys are crossing when you play defense. And then same thing on the opposite. If the opposite is hitting, you want to shift over to the right, cover that deep right corner, but also have the middle back, and then the opposite or the setter, whoever's right back, will have in front of you and you have deep. So making sure that you're dynamic in defense when you're playing middle back, making sure that you're super far back in middle back, almost to the service line in really club, that's fine. And then you're dynamic, you're moving to the left when it goes to the outside so you can cover that main shot that they have. And then same thing when it goes to the oppo, you're covering the far right corner and then filling the gaps in between the block if there is any. And then that's also another thing with defense is making sure that you see the hitter when they're hitting. A lot of times players will just hide behind the block and they can't even see what the hitter's doing, and that's why they can't even read the hitter because they can't even see him, right? So making sure that you're seeing the hitter, filling any gaps that there is, and being I call it the 80% shots, right? You don't want to be in the spot that they might hit 10% of the time. You want to be standing in the spot that they are probably going to hit 80% of the time, because then when they hit their 80% of the time, you're going to be there, right? So that's my biggest thing with defense is understanding where to be in middle back, and that's super key as you get higher in the levels. But then also just hitting, making sure that you're getting connected with your setter and that you're able to hit quick sets, right? As you get up into the college level, and especially like 18s year as well, offenses are going to start being run pretty fast, right? And so the more you can develop your timing and develop your approach and your hitting abilities to be able to be ran faster and be sped up, the better you have, not only in the present tense, but also in your potential of how far you can go. So yeah, that's my best answer for that question right there. If you have any other questions that you need more help with as far as being an outside, we have an outside in our VGC programs that is at GCU, so he's probably a pretty good person to listen to and learn from if you are an outside more specifically. I help oppos because I'm an opposite. But that's my best take I can give you as far as me being a coach as well. Okay, so question number 5. How do you get into volleyball if you're not good enough for the high school team? I would say find every opportunity you can to improve outside of needing to be on a team, right? So at home workouts, you can find a one-on-one coach. A lot of club coaches do private lessons, so that is a great way to do it. Even if you're not a part of a club, you can figure out a way to do that. If you live in Southern California, hit me up. I can definitely help you with some one-on-one coaching because I live in SoCal. But yeah, I would say find every opportunity you can to still develop in this time. If you're not good enough for a high school team, I would say also just try your hand at club. There's a lot of clubs that have a 2s team or even a 3s team. Our 16s age group at Wave, we have a 3s team. So find any club you can, right? Some clubs are not as prestigious as high school teams, right? So if you can find a club where you can really develop and learn the basics, that would be great. But I would say that's my biggest thing is find every opportunity you can to get better by doing privates, getting better, buy a ball and do at-home workouts, right? Talk to one of us at VGC, we can help you out as well with some at-home stuff you can do, like DM us and stuff like that. Find a club that maybe could work for you, where you can find the basics. If you have sand courts or you're by a beach, do beach camps, beach one-on-ones, beach privates. There's so many different opportunities. The more you put yourself out there to get help, the more chances you have to get help from people. So that's my biggest thing there. And that is the end of this episode. I hope you guys really learned from this episode and got a bunch of value from it. If you did, share it with a teammate. If you have any more questions, put the questions in our comment section of our TikTok episodes, TikTok clips, and Instagram clips as well. And we will see you guys next episode, and always grow together.